There we go. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining. This has been a busy month with several sessions, and I think there's been a lot of value in having the separated sessions. So I'm just going to do a share screen. And if I haven't, I think I've welcomed everybody I need to welcome here. I'm not sure if Mike Helens is in here, but if Mike is in here, welcome Mike. I've said hello to Rob. I think I've got everybody so far. Let me just quickly go and share. Okay. That's right. Set of slides. Okay. Louise, can you see my slides?
We can see them full, just in edit mode for the moment.
Thanks, Tom. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. All right. So today's session is a little less structured. I was busy playing with the agenda and suddenly realized I'd run out of time. So this agenda is not 100% up to date. So apologies for that. We've just been very busy today and yesterday trying to get everyone to give us an update of where we are. And so I just want to give you a kind of a quick update, which is I didn't even get to doing on right over here. Tom and myself have been very busy with Jones and Frederick in the background trying to get resolution on the things that Rob Dryden has picked up, which no one, interestingly enough, has picked up before, and to the point where even some of the EXA people weren't comfortable with making a call on it. So Johan gave an opinion which was very good. Rob gave an opinion was very good. Kim I gave an opinion. Tom gave an opinion, etc. And it's gone back. And what it's resulted in is that it's been escalated to Francisca, who in turn has escalated it to someone called Mildred Ninzinza in EXA, and it's gone all the way up to Mr. Edmund Ngumalo. And as Frederick was just saying, you may have just heard him, is they actually can't make policy changes in the middle of an open window because it's like changing the goals. So we're going to have to manage that, and that's what's happening in the background, how we manage that and how EXA makes sure that no one is disadvantaged because there is this anomaly that's been identified between the forms and templates and the standards and things like word count and numbers of bullet and those sort of kind of things, numbers of signatures that are available and numbers of signatures expected, etc. So that is all being addressed by the very, very, very best people, in fact, the only people in the land that can address that. So we're not going to get bogged down in that conversation, other than to let you know that it's on the radar screen very, very apparently of EXA and are aware it. And Tom is doing huge work in the background on that. What has also come out of today or yesterday and yesterday's, I'm not sure if Veronique is in the session yet from Zutari, but she's been struggling to get an invoice from EXA so that she can pay her fees to reclaim back from Zutari. And she's called EXA and hasn't been given a particularly useful response. I escalated it then to Francisca, who escalated it back to Francine, I think, in finances, only to discover that the whole of EXA finance department is away on a team building at the moment. So they're busy resolving all of this, and all the questions that have come through to us that we are not able to answer have been escalated to EXA, and Francisca's on it, Mr. Lumalo's on it, and what we're going to be doing, as you might have heard Frederick say, we're putting a working group together, because the working group needs to represent industry as much as possible, not just a single VA, but people that are working in this industry and within EXA, and so that it's managed and it gets the necessary gravitas, etc. So that is all happening as we speak. Tom and Frederick, let me just pause for a moment and give Tom. Do you want to give us the closest update, because I know you just got off the call with Francisco?
So, as you know, we've been getting what I think are amended forms from Mildred via Fran. We've now got all three. We got an engineering one, and I asked, what about the others? Then we got a technologist one, and now we've just been sent all three. What I haven't had a chance to do is to go and check to see, The problem with these forms is you've got to go page by page and see what is it, because they don't send them to you and track changes, although she's asked for it and track changes. So we'll work on that. I'm still finishing off both Jones and Rob's input and other information in the tabular format with a recommendation from our side as to what it should be. And maybe I can just combine the two exercises and try and get it done before her deadline of Monday. But that's where we are at the moment. And obviously, hopefully, I've already agreed with you and her that they can't now go and suddenly change the forms on the system. They'll cause absolute chaos. But the assessors need to be aware, the confusion exists, and that they must give some leeway in the terms of the submissions until the next window, when hopefully a new set of forms will be available. But that's where we are, Phil.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you, Tom. So just well done to Rob Dryden for picking this up, and so a lot of other people will benefit from this, but it is a little bit in flux at the moment, and all I can say is that we're doing the very best we can to resolve it, given that EXA, being a regulatory body, doesn't just roll over and make changes. So it has to go through processes and has to be ratified and panels and signed off and things like that. But it's in the best place it could be, and it will be resolved. As Tom said, the main thing is to make sure that the assessor panels have got a couple of things on their radar screen. One is that there may be anomalies around the signatures, the bullet points, the word count, etc., and they have to give flexibility. And the fact that so many people have registered before tends to suggest that flexibility has been the order of the day before, but they're also going to get some submissions from alternative route and academic route candidates, which is going to be something very new on their menu. And we need to make sure that they are, as well as possibly can be, prepared for those, and that they know who and how to escalate any queries, etc. So we don't get an outright rejection. At least it goes to it goes into a process where we can evaluate it. And I think, with the best will in the world, we're in slightly uncharted territory, and we're just going to have to see how it goes when the Helens lads and the Drydens and Grant and that when they do their submission. So the next thing I wanted to just cover quickly was just to remind those that are in here that are not in a Manzi 1 and a Manzi 2, or even those that haven't responded to the way to send it to us. I've had conversations with 1 or 2 candidates. I've had a very busy last week with many candidates wanting all sorts of different variations of different things. And as I pointed out to Cherie and to some of the others, is that we need to try and work with a format that is as consistent as possible. We just cannot deal with individual TERs and individual engineering reports. And if candidates have got challenges with getting mentor sign-off, or supervisor sign-off, or even referees to have a look at their kind of stuff, we understand all that, but we can't make that our problem, because when it goes to our review team and Johan wants to have a look at it, he doesn't know you, he hasn't worked with you, Tom doesn't really know you, Janko doesn't know you, Kim and I don't know you and don't work with you. We need to have as much information as possible. And so we are trying to push as much as possible that you give us the full set. So I'm just going to remind you what that looks like. For anybody that hasn't submitted, it's just a reminder, pardon me. Then I'm going to do a very quick live status update. And then I'm really going to hand over to everyone so that all the final questions can get resolved here. This is the session. So just as a reminder, if you want to send us documents for our evaluation team or review team to have a look at it, if you did initially did a diploma, and then you've worked for a bit, and then you did your BTech, you need to have a period that covers. You need to tell us what kind of work you did, if it was engineering work, obviously, because we want to make sure that, one, you get the benefit of that time frame, and secondly, that there's evidence that your degree of responsibility was improving, and that you were working in a field of water related, or at least civil engineering related work, etc. And And then obviously we need your qualification details, the academic records. And so Johan likes to get those, Tom likes to get those, because that just gives a view to make sure that there's no confusion around that it's a recognized qualification. It will not be under review or educational review by EXA, etc. And also that we get the subjects, because the engineers and the technologists, etc., you need to be able to give a list of your subjects taken, because that also indicates the nature of the work that we're expecting to see that you're in and what you're doing. And that you can actually legitimately, with the subjects that you've got, register for the category that you are wanting to register for. There are changes in the academic institution. We just need to make sure that we've got that all covered. Tom can explain that, and Johan can explain that far more eloquently than me just now. And then what Johan's picking up regularly as well. So if anybody looks at CHQ, I was really, really hoping to have a whole new version of CHQ open. We just didn't get that done. Not that it's material to anybody here, but my head developer had a heart attack 10 days ago. And I can't blame MASELULEKANE on that, but it just meant that all development stopped with our team, and we weren't able to get the new look CHQ communicator out, which I was really hoping to impress Rob Dryden with. It just didn't happen. It's going to happen very soon now. He's back at the grindstone. But I was hoping that we were going to be able to split mentors and mentees and be able to have a threaded chat and all that stuff that we've been chasing. So it will, the people that continue from here will have the benefit of that. But what Johan's picking up, and you'll see in the feedback that I do load into CHQ, is that Johan's consistently picking up big anomalies in the TES between the start and end dates of TERs and the engineering report. So EXA don't like gaps and they don't like overlaps. You just can't have that. And if you've been working for longer than 10 years, you're going to need TEOs and how you structure the TEOs. There have been some questions that came up today about TEOs, and if you've worked for multiple organizations in a time frame, how do you handle all the different organization structures and organization charts? So thank you to Kim for her responses that we've been able to go back there. So what we're wanting to say to you, when you send us your stuff, if you didn't do a career experience audit at the very beginning, which is a mentoring for success process, that's not an issue. That's not an EXA requirement. And if you didn't do a learning gap analysis, that's also not an issue. Those are just nice to haves if you are being paired with a mentor that comes from our world and they don't know you. But because you've all got your own mentors, that's less of a need. And it was really more of an exercise to harmonize your mind, especially essentially that some of you have got so many years of experience. I'm really excited because one of the ladies in here today, I just got an email right now, is going to be submitting after 22 years of work. And for me, that is just that's a substantial success story, that we've managed to assist someone after all that amount of time get so close to the line. So the career experience audit and the learning gap analysis were really there to harmonize your thinking, structure your thinking, and your getting your documentation right. And hopefully it assisted you with getting the engineering report and the TERs, TES, etc. together. But essentially, you're going to have to give us one engineering report, and it's going to have to talk well to the whichever projects that you've written up in your TERs. And that might be 2 or 3 projects or 1 or 2 projects, etc. But it's going to need to align well with your TERs, and you need to cover all of your working experience up to about 10 years with TERs, showing your appropriate escalation and degrees of responsibility, and that your start dates and end dates, and if any changes in role, changes in work, changes in project, changes in employer. Essentially, you will probably have a different TER for those because things change. You're reporting to different people. Your roles and responsibilities are different. The project activities you're doing are different, and the people you are reporting to. And then if you've been working longer than 10 years, you're going to have to need to do TEOs. We've had these discussions in detail, and then your training experience report needs to strap it all together. If you've got an international qualification or you are coming alternative route, you're going to have to do the B18 EDR, which is just verifying that you've grown the necessary cognitive acumen to be able to make up for any loss or what is deemed to be the academic route, etc. And then what we do want to know is that your documentation has been at least checked by your mentors and supervisors. What happened in the early stages, which we've managed to stop, but what happened in the very early stages from a variety of different people across the MTM groups, the SAICI groups, the EWCTA groups, so across all the groups, is that people were using us as a sounding board to how the hell to write a report, which is just not our role. We don't have the resources to do that. So we've managed to get that much better with them being a little bit autocratic, which I sort of apologize for in the nicest possible way. We've got you to all to start to take more accountability for sending us higher quality reports. So that was what we wanted to do. So for those of you who are struggling to get sign off and are getting towards the end of it, we hear your cry for help, etc. But we can only work within the resources that we have. So in our tables, this is what we've got now. We've got this is the people that I've got in our server folders for. And Louise tells me that there's one or two. I think Pearl might be coming in shortly. There's one or two that might be coming in as well. Veronique, I can't remember if she's coming in. So these are the folders that I've got, and Takalani has already, as you know, I need to check in with Takalani because I think Takalani's her second slice of the cherry was today. In fact, I need to check in with her on that. So this is the updated list, and this has been updated not even 15 minutes ago or 25 minutes ago, maybe just before the top of the hour. So and I think it was Muneni, I think, updated. So thank you, Muneni, for that. And can't remember, Pearl also updated, I think. Thank you for your last minute update. So ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have for the EWCTA for Amanzi 1 and Amanzi 2, okay? The way we split it, and that's the CETA people. And the blue it's been reviewed already by the M4S team. And so we've got the dates. You'll see the yellow is people that haven't responded yet. So I can unyellow that. Okay, so Muneni Kataza Muneni Mabunda has responded, so I'll unyellow that. But you'll see there that Mbali Sibia has not responded. Musa Wenkosi in Ndlovu hasn't responded, and then Veronique Spannenberg is in the process of things, so that might be also out of date. She just hasn't updated to her yet. Her challenge is also that she's not getting an invoice from EXA. But Zinhle Gumede, we've had no response from. So Louise has sent emails. We've still got no response from the emails. So we're going to have to call these people. But this is essentially the update over here. So Johan, what's going to happen is that there's probably going to be a bit of a rush in the next day or two, and then next week as well, as we put and some people are sending us feedback from the very good feedback that you've given them. And although we don't really have the financial resources to do like 3 or 4 bites at the pie, we're going to try and do it, because it's obviously we want as many success stories as we can get in these early stages. So if any of you ladies in here from Amanzi 1 and Amanzi 2 and the mentors of these ladies here that are shown here, Tom, you'll notice that the list is reduced a bit. That we've had 2 or 3 in today and yesterday who have requested being moved to Amanzi 3, which is the January, February, Amanzi 3 and Amanzi 4, which is the Jan-Feb 2025, which is fine because the program lasts until then. And it's better rather to get that extra amount of time. Some of the candidates have actually been repositioned in their work functions to get more sort of design office experience, which is very pleasing as well. But this is what we have at the moment. So if any of you in here, if Mbali Sibia is in here, and if Musa Wenkosi and Ndlovu is in here, or Veronique is in here, or Zinhle Gumedi is in this session, please, in the chat, please just put your first name, your last name, what date that you are still planning to send documents to Louise so it can go to, or that you're going to put it into CHQ for review. You have both choices. Ideally, you do the same at the same time. So you put it into CHQ so it becomes live. We can all see it. And Louise can then get it and send it urgently to me to check and to make sure. So if those names that I've just called that are shown in yellow here are in this session, or if anybody knows them or works with them or lives near them, please tell them that we urgently need their information. Otherwise, we just got to take them out of here because we're just reporting on missing people. So the same goes with the next slide. This is what we just call the sponsored group or the industry group over here. So these are ladies that are not being sponsored by EWCETA because we had the full 40 subscribe, and we're doing our best as we can to support them, a couple of them. So you'll see Cherie has been reviewed. Mosa Mafani's done great work, has been reviewed. Johan's had a couple of looks there. And then Unati Bengwana has also been reviewed. So those are the dates. So once again, if Amanda Ndubi or August Dinyaki is in here, please urgently in the chat, put your updated dates. Otherwise, if you don't talk to us, we can't talk to you and we're going to drop you out of the system. And that would be a pity. So you need to give us an update. And you'll see that Unati, who did a great job, Johan was very complimentary about her presentation. She's actually submitted. So little round of applause for Unati. I hope a sea of clapping hands is going up. She's actually submitted. That was it was well done. I think Musa is very close to being able to do something. Good feedback, been listening to all the feedback and taking it seriously. So I think we're progressing some people over here quite well. So if anybody's got updated information here, please take note. Please, if you work in the same company and they're not here and they're not in the session, please go and give them a little kick and ask them to please get their information updated. And then the MTM group, there's a couple of changes that I'm being made aware of by Tom. So I believe Basil and Brendan and Emma and Vote are going to move to the Jan-Feb 2025 group, which is a good idea, possibly, especially from what I knew. I know that Voter was under enormous pressure, and Emma, we felt needed a little bit more under the belt there just to get that over as a PRN. So that we support. We think that's good. Basil and Brendan, you've got a little bit more breathing time. But for the three Helens lads, Calvin, Justin, and Trevor, and Grant Dryden, it's you're into the final lap over here. And I'm assuming that I wasn't in the session because I had to leave last week, that all's on track there. But you need to let us know in the chat or in this conversation now what remains outstanding. We don't need to talk too much about the issue with regards to bullet points and signatures and word count because pardon me, that is being addressed at EXA. But if there are any other final questions that you've got, what I also wanted to mention, which I didn't, is you can see I was working on the slide and didn't get very far. What I also wanted to mention is that for the MTM guys, while we're busy writing up the closeout report, we suddenly realized that one of the sessions, the behavioral dynamics in the construction sector, we missed the CPD submission. So Louise is on to that. We have advised the CPD lady at SAICI that it's coming through. So we'll get that process as quickly as possible. If I remember correctly, I think it's the 27th of March is the date that we ran that. And the 5 CPD points for mentors and candidates that go with our program, which also has full CPD as a category C program. So that's all in process. That's that you will get in the next couple of days. So just be aware that Calvin raised it a couple of weeks ago that there was some outstanding CPD, and it's taken us a bit of time to get to it with all the back house issues that we've had, but it is now being addressed. So just be aware of that you will get additional CPD certificates. So that's I didn't get to the rest of that. So Tom and team, that's my set of slides in the discussion, and I wanted to now open it to everyone. I see we've got 49 people in the house, so that's a nice group. Tom, any inputs from you? Friedrich from you, Kim from you, Johan from you. Let's just talk about the sort of the leadership team at the moment. Rob, from your side. And then maybe we just go back to the candidates and just see who has got questions, and we have a productive Q&A session. So Tom, starting with you.
Okay, so I'm almost finished working through Calvin's. I've not had a look yet at Trevor or Justin's, and I'll be able to give Calvin feedback quite soon. I'll do it on Communicator, so he's got it there and others can use the same data. Digital stuff is great, but you still sometimes need to print things, like Johan's picking up dates. So that's, for me, it's easier to print the summary, experience summary, and then check it against the TEOs and TERs. Grants I have now sent to Duncan. Rob and I had a conversation last week, and I agreed to ask, that's my Duncan, who's got a bit of an IT slant to his civil environment, so he's going to have a look at it for Grant. And then Mike confirmed that Aaron is now going the pure civil transportation traffic route and not the electronics, electrical, whatever we discussed when he did the project defense.
Sorry, Tom. No, I'm actually still going computer engineering.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Yes.
So you need to just tell Mike that, because that's not the information he shared with me. But that's fine.
I think I did update him, but I think he hasn't updated you as yet.
Okay, cool.
Sorry about that.
Okay, and then Philip, you just left Aaron out of your due to submit in this window group. We mentioned the 3 Helenses and the 1 Dryden, but we've also got Aaron that will be submitting.
Oh, apologies. Sorry, that was, so that it was correct on the slide. I didn't mention it, but it is correct on the slide, I think. Yeah, sorry, Aaron.
And then just while we're talking from the academics, the only academic that is definitely in on this window is Cheryl, from CPUT. Ntebo and Jacob have indicated they are trying, but obviously they haven't even sent anything to me or Yanku or anyone else to look at. So whether they make it through this window or don't make it through, and then those others that we've looked at, as you and Kim are aware of, have got lots and lots of learning to write properly skills to get through first before they can actually get their applications in. So, I mean, and then I'm not sure in the SAISI Nook, by the way, Takalani's thing was on Monday, Phil, and she said that she had Yanku and other helping her to prepare. When she got to what she thought was a fresh professional review, it was more like like an audit almost. She said it wasn't actually. I'm trying to find out from her, did they let her represent in case she was trying to reinforce some of her outcomes based on the fact that the feedback was she was a bit light in some of the outcomes, or they weren't sure of some of the outcome. But I haven't had a reply from her yet. So we'll wait and see. And then I did also check with her, I'm hoping it was a different group of people. And if so, were any of them transportation or traffic? Because obviously that partly could have been the problem. And let's hope with our batch going in now, certainly the MTM group, that they have transport and traffic related people that understand the language of their business, or else we'll end up with, some roadblocks that are unnecessary. But other than that, Phil, all good, just lots and lots of things going on all at the same time. So time is a challenge.
Yeah, 100%, Tom. But thank you for the feedback. So Calvin, Grant, Aaron, Justin, Trevor, you've heard from Tom. He's working through your stuff. He's the best person to be able to handle, to have a look at it. If Cheryl's in here, I'm sure, I think Cheryl's probably quite far advanced. Tom, I've never seen anything submission from Cheryl. Have you? For the academic?
I've got. Cheryl's got quite a few people helping. Okay, and she's been getting some very positive feedback, which she's keeping me in the loop. What I've asked Cheryl for is to wait until she's got all the edits and the amendments from her direct mentors, and then I will do a final scan. Cheryl is similar to the 22-year lady where she's got lots and lots of experience that she's now got to try and fit into TEOs and TERs and show the transition of her career from being an industry person to an academic. Although her engineering report and her final TERs are as an academic, her and all the other people assisting her mentors are all agreeing that it helps to give the story of the transition from one work environment to the other. In Johan's terminology, it gives her full project life cycle as a professional. So, but she is, I'm seeing her stuff, and at the moment, I think the latest update is Monday next week for the version that I will do the final checking on prior to her getting signatures.
Okay, all right.
I think she's in the session. Cheryl, have I summarized yours correctly?
I haven't got time to talk. I'm busy typing, but yes.
Okay, Tom, sorry, there's a whole lot of really important chats happening. We need to come back to those. Okay, so thanks for that update.
Phil, sorry. I'm just trying to make sure Zane is in the session. Zane, I'm not sure if your stuff has gone in, and I don't see Ishmael in the session today. No, so I'm not sure where Zane is. And Nadine de Mink, are you in this window, or is Nadine in a later window?
Nadine's in the Jan Feb. She's the only SICE survivor out of all the SICE people.
Okay, no problem. That's great.
Tom, I'm just going to, so thank you for that feedback. Just going to give Friedrich, I saw something about Friedrich's kicking out, or Kim, or does anybody from the sort of the leadership team want to say anything at this point in time, or should we go through the chat and then I'll divvy up the questions to the various leaders? Is that okay? Are you happy with that, Kim?
That's perfect. Friedrich just says he doesn't have sound at the moment, so he is there and he is listening. He just gets kicked out, so he's battling a bit with the sound. But yes, there's nothing I particularly need to add to what's already been said. So let's see what questions people have. Fantastic.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm scrolling down right from the top again to all the questions. So let me try that. Okay. So Louise, Nadira's updated her stuff. Nadira's had a broken her arm and is unable to write and is in a lot of pain. So she was a Manzi 1, a Manzi 2, but we're going to push that out to a Manzi 3. So that's 100%. Nadira, we've agreed on that. So Louise, there's all Nadira's stuff to update on the thing. So we won't push that, but thank you for letting us know, Nadira, and may you heal very well. That's not a problem at all. You were making really good progress as well at one point. So so you'll stay. We will move you. So thanks, Louise. Do I still stay in the same nook? No, we'll move you to our Manzi 3. Louise, is that correct?
Yes.
Manzi
that's my
3.
answer to her.
Oh yeah. No, see, when in doubt, read the instructions, Louise. Okay, then Hope is saying, good afternoon. Apologies for delaying. It was in a meeting with Donald Trump. No. Dikaledi Malachi, hi, I will submit for review on the 26th of July and EXO on the 8th of August. Okay, so there's Dikaledi's response. Louise, if you could update the slides. Or I'll grab it. I'll grab it from here.
No, but Dikaledi, she says, hi, I will submit for review. Okay, I'm sure she responded. I think we have got it in the slides. Just check.
Lady.
She's on the next one, on the next slide.
No. Lady Malachi. Okay, so I need to go and update that. Okay, I'll go and update that. Stop sharing there. Okay, well done, Lady. Thank you for giving us that info. Okay, so there's an update. That's good. Zintle Gomedi, I sent the information through to Louise. However, I'm planning to submit. Okay, so Louise, you may.
I've got that and I've updated.
Fantastic. Okay, I need to send you my latest version because I've updated your version. So I'll send mine through to you just now. Tom, there's a TNPA, someone from TNPA, interestingly enough. Zintle Gomedi. Okay, Zayn needs to drop off.
Are you looking at the chat now?
I'm looking at the chat, yeah. I'm looking at the chat. There's Zintle Gomedi, and I see she's from TNPA.
What's the question, Phil?
No, there wasn't a question. She's updating information. I'm just saying because you and I have been talking to TNPA for, what's it, 18 months.
Yeah. No problem.
Okay, the next response I misread. I thought she said he will submit for review, and because I already had the email from Dekeledi, so I've updated that. So that's why I said who's he, but I misread it. It's higher and not he. So just ignore that response.
Okay. All right. And then thank you for the update. I will submit for review. Let me hide Mbali Sibia's mentor here. Okay, so Prasantha is Mbali's. She mentioned she emailed it through to. So Mbali Sibia, did you get something updated there, Louise, from Mbali?
No, no, because I've responded to that as well. I've checked the emails. The last email from Mbali was in May, which was just that old submission readiness template.
That's what you and I talked about just now. Yes. Okay.
So there
all right. So Prasantha, if you could just follow up with Mbali, please. We haven't received that. If she could please, the first prize is that she just sticks it into CHQ's first prize, because then we know we've got it in a common repository. I think that's a common request to everybody, actually, if you can use CHQ, because what you may or may not appreciate is dealing with so many people. We get swamped by emails, and everyone's got something different and a different attachment and a different something at a different stage, and it just becomes an absolute nightmare. Whereas if we've got it in a single repository, it's just easier for us to deal with. Friedrich keeps getting kicked out, so he's got no sound. Cheryl's having a happy moment, and Cheryl's always a happy person, so that's very good. Okay, the last email I've received from Mbali was the 30th of May. Okay, Cheryl here. Tom, you captured it exactly. Okay, so pat in the back for Tom. I try to be funny, but I don't know where it landed. Okay, please put any questions you have in the chat. Kim's asking for questions in the chat. Tom, Phil, I'm hoping to submit to Tom and Friedrich latest Monday 29th. Who's that? Oh, that's from Justin. Okay, fantastic. Thanks, Justin. Okay, so we can update your thing by Monday the 29th, which is next week. And then we'll give something. So Friedrich, sorry, not Friedrich, Johan and Tom and me and Kim and Friedrich, the next week, I suppose, or 10 days is going to be potentially a bit crunchish. So if we can try and keep some time available, because some of the candidates are resubmitting to us after a review, and it would be really good if we could just give them that last little bit of polishing assistance. That would be really good. Okay, I can see that Ndakona Bashingi, one of the academics, has got a question. Go, Ndakona. Ndakona Bashingi, you've got a question. Please go, or unmute. Was that a high five? Okay, that's not working. Justin, you've got a... Okay, no, hold on.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I have a question. I'm hoping maybe Kim or Tom could be able to help me. This is in relation to the overlap of TERs, right? I was asking if you were doing something and then that's a TER, and you're doing some part-time things that were also running concurrently with the main thing. Do you do those part-time if it was like a 1-year lecturing job, 2 years a semester? Can I do those as separate TERs, or I include them as together with the main thing, because there's separate responsibilities?
I can answer that. If you are doing it concurrently, so they're literally at the same time frame, so you're doing something part-time, then you can put that on the same TER. Just identify on that TER that here's my, I was working for this company, for your main section of it. And if you were lecturing or something part-time, then just effectively add a note to it, or say in the paragraph, in addition to this work, I was also doing part-time lecturing at such and such a place. Yeah, don't do it as a separate TER.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking, I think, is now that I think I've been doing everything wrong, because I was doing some, you'll be lecturing for a year there, a semester there while doing a PhD. That was I had the doctorate as a TER on its own, and then I had the different lecturing jobs as different TERs as well, because there would be, these are different. I had different organograms for each and all that. So now, if I combine them as a TER, how does the organogram
Work.
part of it work? Do I have multiple?
So
of
you
those?
can have
Yeah.
multiple organograms on one TER. That's not a problem. People who are doing project organograms very often have more than one on one TER. So you should be covering what you're working in that particular time frame. So you can say, for these 2 years, I was a junior lecturer, I was lecturing the following 3 courses, and I was working on the first semester or the first section of my PhD. And those will all be included within one TER. You might have a couple of organograms, and you might focus the different answers. Are you registering PRN, or are you registering PR Tech? Tech. So when you are addressing the different segments of the TER, then you might want to focus more on one particular course or more on one particular problem or whatever it is that ended up coming from one section. But when you're describing the nature of the project, you mention the different roles that you were applying, as long as they were all at that same time. If that makes sense.
Okay. It does, but now I'm thinking, okay, if I had like maybe the role and responsibility section for one part, maybe the number of words and just describing the whole thing, it's not gonna, I think it's going to be limiting. Yes, that.
Yeah, no, it is tricky to slim that down, because it was probably easier when you were doing it in separate TERs, because then you could spend more words discussing each of them. It's very tricky. You have to give just the basic snapshot. You often, when you are doing a similar sort of thing, so say for instance you are a senior lecturer and you are lecturing several courses, but it's a similar role that you are lecturing in, or that you're playing in each of those, then rather than repeating all the information, you would say, I was a senior lecturer for this one, this one, this one, and this one. You wouldn't put those each as separate paragraphs, basically saying the same thing in each of them.
Okay, thank you. I'll try work around that. I think now I have to go back and delete all the TERs, and hopefully I'll be able to submit a draft soon. But thank you.
So can I chip? So let's work backwards from now. At the moment, are you employed by a university as a full-time lecturer?
Yes.
Okay, and how many years have you been in that capacity? And as Kim says, is it as a lecturer, senior lecturer, or a junior lecturer, but where your job is teaching?
Oh, yes, this was a 1 year, 7 months.
Okay, so you know, but when you go back to when you did your BTech or your BEng or whatever qualification you have as a benchmark qualification, what is the time period?
Oh, it's been some years, almost 10
Okay,
years.
so the best way to do it is you must have a TEO for the period when you had a proper job, and I'm not inferring academics don't have proper jobs, until such time as you became a full-time PhD student. You were working in industry. You weren't employed by the university. You worked for somebody or some other entity. Is that correct?
Okay, I did postgrad.
No. Before postgrad. You got a BTech in many years ago. From the time that you got the BTech, which is your benchmark qualification, you would have been in industry, or did you stay at the university and go straight into a master?
I studied full-time for the next postgrad after BTech.
Yeah, so look, I think what you've got to do is you've got to show that your primary role was that you were a full-time postgraduate student, initially doing a master's, then doing a doctorate. And during that time period, you were assigned certain teaching tasks. One could have been as a lecturer assistant, you could have done
Yes.
marking, you could have done tut work, you could have done lab work, and eventually you started teaching your own classes. But your
Yes.
primary job was as a postgraduate student. And
Yes.
as Kim says, you don't separate the work that you were doing concurrently with your studies, but your studies' first start and end date must be accounted for in your experience report. So when you look at your time frames, that the work the experience audit that Phil refers to, but the exaversion table 2 point whatever it is, then you must make sure that you've got work up to and when you completed your BTEC in a TEO. Then you go and you can have either 1 or 2 TEOs. I wouldn't bother to have 2 if you went from master's into doctorate as a postgraduate continuously. But you need that work experience, otherwise you are short of meeting the minimum requirements for registration.
Okay.
Tom,
Okay.
Cheryl's actually put a comment in the chat if you wanted to have a look there. But
Okay, so Phil, if you are a full-time student, but you are doing proper work as a full-time student, I mean, you're a postgrad student, then you can't write a TER for that. That's it. This is going to be a tough one, because then you're going to only have a TER for 1 year and 7 months. It depends on, was it a PhD that was a scenic route that took 5, 7, 8 years to complete, where actually more work was being done on the additional responsibilities and very little. What was part-time, the teaching or the PhD? That's the decision that Ndakona needs to make.
Okay, but so we'll need to, Ndakona, you'll need to resolve that with Yanko and Tom as soon as you can. But I see Justin Helens has been very patient there and got a question. Justin, go.
How's it, guys? I just want to find out, so is there a limit to the period of a TEO?
No.
So for example, if you've got 3 TEOs and 1 TER, you aren't going to make up 5 degrees of responsibility. So you're not going to be able to go from degree of responsibility A to E when you've only got 3 TEOs and 1 TER. So is it better to have more TEOs and split up the periods and make the periods shorter, where your role has changed? Not necessarily your whole role, but your actual your work has changed, but you're still doing the same other work, if that makes any sense.
Justin,
sorry, Kim,
yeah, okay, go ahead. Okay, now I was just going to say there's a table, table 3 in document R-03, and basically it says a TEO should be, different TEOs should be, and it says a period ends when the level of responsibility changes from B to C. So they don't need you to write a separate TEO for A, obviously. Well, you might do an A and B together, but when it changes from B to C, that's the end. And when the level of responsibility changes from level D to level E, or a promotion is received, or a change of employment, so you go work for somebody else, if there's some form of interruption or your nature of your work changes significantly. So those are the 6 defined reasons for why a TEO, what would define the end of a TEO. So you don't need in your TEOs to do a level A TEO, a level B TEO. You can do A and B, you can do C and D together, and then your level E, if you've got lots of time as level E, then you might do a TEO in level E as well as a TER in level E, but you just have to make sure you have at least 1 TER of level E as well.
100%. That makes perfect sense. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Yeah, Justin, the thing with the TEOs is essentially you capturing your very early years, and they're not expecting you to have a lot of detail in your early years. So you can lump together A and B or B and C, or your transitioning kind of thing. in more generalist terms. It's only what you really want to do is your TER should be looking from today backwards in logical jumps. If you are on one project and you're knocking out all 11 out or 10 outcomes plus initial professional development on a long project, and you are really covering the engineering project life cycle, then you might just have 1 or 2 TERs in that period. So your TEOs really are from 10 years and onwards, and you might have just a few TERs. It could be even 1, as Kim says, more likely to be 1 or 2, but you won't have more TEOs than TERs. That would be counterintuitive. You would be better off having 2 or 3 TERs that cover your 10 years, and then maybe 1 or 2 TEOs, depending on how many years in total. Tom, your microphone blinked. Do you want to add something to that?
Sorry, Phil, I just forgot to mute. I'm listening. Go ahead.
Oh, no, not at all. I thought you wanted to add something. No, okay, all right. Justin, sorry, have you given you enough guidance there?
Yeah, you have kind of thrown a bit of a curveball there, because I have got 3 TEOs and 1 TER. I was under the impression
That's fine.
You think that's fine?
That is absolutely fine. If you've got
sorry,
lots,
Kim and Phil, just remember Justin's doing a technician application, not a technologist. So in some respects, he's got less ease that he has to achieve than for a technologist and an engineer.
Sure. So Justin, I don't know the technician one as well as the others. But even for the technologist, as long as you have 3 years worth of experience, which is, so if you've got many years of experience, that you've written most of them all up as TEOs, and you've written the last 3 years up in 1 level E TER, that would be 100% fine. It's stated as such in the document, so I'm sure, for at least for the technologist and the engineers. So I'm not sure for the technician, but I can't see it would be different.
Yeah. All right. No, that sounds good. Okay, that's it from my side. Thank you. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Tom.
Unless
cool.
Tom or Friedrich or Johan, if you know differently, then please do shout.
No, Kim, it's absolutely correct. At least 3 years at level E. It can be included in the TEO, but the final TR should at least have only level E work, as you said.
Right. Thanks, Johan.
Thanks, Johan. Okay. I'm not sure who was next, but I see Lorato's got a hand up, and then Moza. Lorato, go.
Thanks. I just wanted to find out something. Like I'd indicated to Louise, I would ask to be part of the cohort that's for in early 2025, because I'm struggling to find a mentor. But where I'm currently working now, there are a few people that are registered. So I just asked to be part of cohort 4 while I try find a mentor within where I'm working now. I have a BTech in civil engineering. But to add on to that, I saw on EXA there's a new thing called specialized practitioner. So I have a master's in engineering management. So I wanted to know, is that another avenue that is being explored through this process?
Don't go that route. That is for people like lift inspectors, gantry operators, laboratory experts, soils laboratories. I wouldn't go the specialist and or limited scope registration. So you just stick to the field in which you are in, and make sure you meet all the outcomes and pursue that route. Your problem when you go the limited or specialist area scope is that it makes you very, very restricted to change direction at a later stage of your career. Whereas if you register as a technician, technologist, or engineer, even if the work you undertook was very limited, the Act says that you must practice in an area in which you are competent, and therefore the onus shifts to you to develop a new competency in another field. If you apply the limited scope registration, then you've got to go and reapply for a different one, and that's not optimal in your career.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Loretta, sorry, I did see that email coming through, and I'm glad you brought it up now, because I wanted to try and get through all of those questions. So that was one of the ones I wanted to get through, is that area of specialization. So hopefully you've got that sorted out. And Louise has already moved you into a Manzi 3 or a Manzi 4, so that's fine. So you're in there. So we'll be, after we've got a Manzi 1 and a Manzi 2 over the line, we'll be switching our focus to the next one coming up. So you'll get much more close air support as soon as that comes up. So hopefully, if you go with that, if you could put your hand down, that'd be appreciated.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Morsa Mafani, you've got a hand up. Please go.
Yes, I do. Thanks, Phil. Thank you to everyone. Quick question. So during COVID, I've got a couple of months that I didn't necessarily do work. On the TES, I've indicated this as period number 3, for instance. Now in the TERs, this is going to be shown as there's going to be an omission to TER number 3. So I'd like to know whether I should assign it a number, just so that the TERs that are written have like a chronological, like number order, or how should I actually account for that period without creating confusion in terms of the numbering of the TERs?
Kim or Johan, do you want to cover that? Kim?
So yeah, I just want to check. So it was just a period during COVID that you weren't working.
Yeah, well, I was employed, but I wasn't doing work. Like I was employed.
So you were
yeah,
working for a company, but because COVID was hard, you didn't have physical work to do. So you were officially an employee, but you didn't have work.
Correct.
So you could cover that in one of 2 ways, and I think Johan would be able to comment here. But I would either do it where you're actually the way I would probably do it is leave it as when you're writing your summary, there is an option for I didn't do work during this time period. Well, there's a separate bit where you can write a reason for a break in work. Hang on, I'd have to look at the form. So I probably
so Kim,
yeah, go for it.
I don't think you need to do anything. I think everybody was affected by COVID. The issue here is that she was continuous employment, was paid a salary. There are lots and lots of people who get a salary every month, even when there's no COVID, and don't do any work. Your problem would be if you are looking for the minimum 3 years, and it includes that 2 to 3 months period of limited activity, because then you are actually short of a minimum requirement of 3 years. But in this case, if it's much longer than 3 years since the benchmark qualification, I would simply report start and end date, including COVID, and not even mention COVID. I don't see why you must highlight the fact that your bosses never gave you anything to do.
Okay.
I agree with you 100%, Tom. I agree with you 100%. It's not that you went on a backpacking trip and you were no longer employed as an engineer, and you were on a jolly patrolly. You were so what they call force majeure was at place, something that no one had ever thought about before. I wouldn't even raise it as an issue, I don't think. It's not that you vegetated during that period, so I really wouldn't bring it up.
So Phil, a TER and a TEO has a start and an end date, and as Johan has repeated often, those dates must not overlap. So the end of one must not be after the start of another, and vice versa. But actually, the fact that you've got a period of time during it where, I mean, you could even work in an area where there's limited work over that time and you kept yourself busy. You put the start date, you put the end date, and you explain what you did over that period. There's no requirement for you to say you did overtime in 1 week and you worked fewer hours on flexi time the next. That kind of detail is not part of what EXA couldn't care about, that sort of stuff. They just want to see full project life cycle, and B, progression from A to E, and that we're doing responsible engineering work. That's what they're looking for.
Okay. No, noted. Thank you very much.
100. And then also that you've got a you've asked us to have another quick look because you're going to update everything. So you need to get that into us so we can swing that past Johan again in time. So but you're making really good progress. So well done. And you are a model student because you respond quickly and you take all the advice and feedback. So keep up the good work. Kim, you've just put something in the chat. If you want to explain it, and then we've got a question from Balenhle Baloy. But if you want to, Kim, if you want to explain what you put in the chat.
What I put in the chat was just while Justin was talking, it was the extract from the document that said what's a defined change in a TER or TEO.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
It just has the bullets there, so you can go look up the tables and stuff if one wants them. And then Nadia made a comment about if you had less than 10 years, but lots of projects, do you still only do TERs? With the word limit, I was kicking out smaller projects. And then I just said, from my perspective, with less than 10 years, you should just be doing TERs. And you don't have to mention every single project you work on. You just want to mention projects that add something to your particular history or experience or tracking. And then
Kim, just one qualification to that.
Yes.
You can mention multiple projects with the value of the project. One thing XRC does often is they judge your responsibility by whether you worked on a raft foundation for a house valued at 50,000, or you worked on a major interchange upgrade valued at 2.4 billion. So I would list the projects with their value, but I would not repeat myself on what you did on the projects if it's the same.
100%. I have just updated my example to include that.
Well done. Well done. Learning on the trot. Well done. Kim, sorry, Tom and I agree with you. I think that almost using the CIDB kind of categorization of project size and authority kind of thing. I know that it was the advice that Johan gave some people at ACOM many years ago, and ABB as well, is that it helps the examiners understand if it was a Mickey Mouse little project or it's a substantial piece of engineering. So it's a useful indicator of project value as well. Someone had a hand up. Balenhle Baloy had a hand up. Balenhle Mboy, please go.
Mbali for short. Thank you. I think one of the questions I had has been answered, but let me ask it anyway in a different way. So I've been working on very significant projects, multiple significant projects at the same time. So they're just running concurrently, and I'd have this similar experience in all those projects, but now I'm not sure how to put them in a chronological order. Like, how do I say I worked on this project from this period to this period if they ended maybe like a month later, but all started at the same time? How do I track those in my TRs, because the times will overlap?
That's going to be an interesting.
No, but look, I don't think you need to put the beginning and the start of a project. The TER gives a beginning and a start of your role within an organization. So if, as Kim has explained a few times, if you joined a company and you were a, deputy technologist, for want of a better word, or assistant engineer, and then during the period you were promoted to something that they call differently, where they lifted your responsibility level. Projects can run for 10, 15 years. So you can't report on the start and an end of a project. But during a time period, you can indicate, these are the projects that I was working on over this period that I'm reporting on. And then only where the work you did on the project differs, do you go into more detail on it on a project by project basis. But if your work, the projects are different, there's no project that's the same. But at the end of the day, were you doing design work? Were you doing reviewing of somebody else's design? Were you on site supervising construction or looking after multiple sites? That's what that assessors want to see. But don't worry about the fact that a project you started on in TER1, you are still working on now in TER5, but you're just working on a different phase of the project.
I think maybe my question is misunderstood. So it's the same project. No, it's different projects. Both maybe big projects, but not construction projects. How can I put it? Conceptual projects that it's desktop studies, for example, but you're doing 2 or 3 of them at a time, and they go on for like 5 months, all of them. And you maybe spend 2 days a week on one, 3 days a week on another, and so forth. So my question is, how do you combat that overlapping in the time frame of a project? And if you want to report on all the projects you worked on at that time frame, you don't just want to report on one of them.
So maybe give me a shot to answer this. For me, this is very normal. So certainly on the structure side, which I have experience on, you almost never get the opportunity to just focus on one project at a time. So if you're working on, say, 3 big projects and you want to draw from each of them because they've had particular items that you want to cover in your TER, so you would like them all to be mentioned and they're all sizable, then you just write up those 3 projects. So in your TER, when it says the nature of the experience, you would mention all 3 projects. You can give if you're doing your organogram as a project organogram, you can put the 3 organograms in there. It's you just handle a TER does not have to be only on one project. Remember, you are discussing anyway various problems and things that you solved in there, so that is very welcome to draw from several projects you worked on, but your role in those projects is likely to be fairly similar for your level of experience at the time.
Okay, all right, that answers my question. Thank you.
Kim, that answers the other question that you mentioned, which someone asked earlier when I swung an email to you and Tom, and it comes back, and maybe you want to just reiterate that, because I think I gave a slightly incorrect answer, in that I mentioned that you wouldn't generally have multiple organograms in a single TER or TO, and you were saying now you can. And so that answers Mbali's question, because you could then, what you're saying is you could then have, if you are at the same degree of responsibility doing ostensibly the same kind of role, let's just say that you are doing a desktop study and you are reviewing the geotechnical analysis, and you're doing basic, looking at the sort of the site layouts and transport rotation routes and things like that, and services and bulk services, etc. You could then have multiple projects, let's say 3, and you would have all of the organograms in the single TER, because your role and responsibility is fairly similar and your degree of responsibility is similar, and you would just cover it that way. Is that correct? Because I think that'll answer someone else's question as well.
Yes. So you weren't actually that in your response. The original question on the email was asking about TEOs. Now on a TEO, you're unlikely to have several different organograms. Because you change in with your company change. TEOs often cover lots of projects, and therefore you're more looking at a company organogram and your role there, or an overall general role rather than a particular project organogram. So unless you are changing companies, your organogram is unlikely to change on a TEO. On a TER, if you are looking at particular projects and you've created your organogram for that, so I was supervising these 2 people and I was answering to this chain of command, then yes, you can absolutely have several organograms on one TER, because of the fact that you might be working in very different projects with different groups of people all simultaneously. It might be even that your role is different. So for instance, and I keep reverting to structures examples because it's what I know best, but you might find you're working simultaneously on one project where you are a junior design engineer and your design is mostly directly doing the design, and you might be supervising a modeler. And then simultaneously on a different project, you happen to be doing the site work. And there your role is completely different, but it's worthwhile mentioning both of those projects because you are picking up different outcomes from those different projects. So in that example, you would have a different organogram for each of the projects, and you would pick and choose for the various sections of the TER that you were answering, which one had appropriate examples to be referencing.
100%. Okay. And what you picked up on there was exactly what that lady's question was, is that she'd had 3 different companies, I think, that she was working on. And could she put that in? So what you've just explained now is if you did have 3 different organizations and different people you're working for in a TO, you can have 3 different organograms. Okay. So thanks.
No, hang on. In a TEO, the time for a TEO is a TEO period normally ends when you change companies. So you would have a different TEO if you even if you were working at level C at all 3 of the places. If you change companies, you're supposed to do a new TEO. It's one of the defining ends of a TEO. So for TEO, you would normally only have 1 organogram.
Okay. All right. Great. And Bali, you got your hand up again, or was that a legacy hand?
No, thank you, Tim. So I forgot to ask my second question. This is more advice than anything. So I have 8 years experience as a technician or with my diploma, even though I was doing more technologist work. And then I did my BTech a bit later in my career. So since the BTech, I have accumulated just over a year, if not 2's worth of experience. And I know that you need a minimum of 3 years experience to register as a technologist. So now the advice that I need is, should I rather register as a technician and then later register as a technologist once I've acquired the 3 years experience, or should I wait for a year or 2 longer and just register once as a technologist? I am in NUC 5, and I think by next year, end of next year, I would be done with the 3 years. But now I don't know if I should just do it now and register as a technician instead.
I would register as a technician, and then when you've gained additional experience, because it's easier to demonstrate that you've achieved well-defined problem-solving skills than broadly defined or complex. So I would register as a technician, allow yourself to do another 2 or 3 years, and then reapply for an upgrade. It's a slightly different process, but it'll be easier following that route. Delaying it just means you're kicking the can down the road and you're not in compliance with the IDOEW.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
100%.
The only question I wanted to ask there, because I had this with somebody else once who they registered as a technician because they didn't have enough years yet post diploma for their technologist. And then when they wanted to, about 2 years after they'd registered as a professional technician, when they wanted to register as a technologist, because they then had effectively 3.5 years after their degree, EXA told them at that stage that no, they needed the 3 years after their registration as a professional technician, which
is rubbish.
Which we thought was rubbish. But it was easier to just wait the 8 months and submit it.
So in this case, Kim, we will measure, has the candidate got 3 years post their base qualification for technician, which is the diploma? The answer is yes. They've actually got 5.5 years or 4.5 years, whatever. They apply for technician, and then when they apply for technologist, the form allows you to indicate a previous registration level, but they will still measure the 3 years. Johan can confirm post the minimum requirements for the technologist, which is the which is the BTech. The fact that you have already started working whilst you've been applying your technician skills at a technologist level doesn't matter. But delaying is not in the candidate's interest, because what happens if the process of getting the PR Tech Eng takes 3 or 4 more years, and then in the interim they've lost out on the fact that they can say, well, hang on, I am already registered as a technician, but I'm now working towards the broadly defined complexity level, and therefore it's going to take me, because we know a lot of the candidates in the session have got multiple years of experience, and even they, with that experience, of finding it not that easy to articulate that experience into tangible outcomes.
Yeah, it's certainly, I would agree with without delaying, rather submit now. I'm just aware that we hit the hiccup previously with one person, but I think that was an incorrect response that we got from EXO at the time. Possibly we should have fought harder, but it was just simpler to leave it
and
for
I
6
think,
months.
Kim, I think it's tough for you as a company with multiple registered people to fight EXA, but that's something that we can do from a
Yes.
VA perspective. And I think with Fran there now, she's very open to those kind of stupid outcomes to be challenged. So I would certainly say in this case, go with the process of applying to register as a technician. Obviously, go to the correct table in R02 STA. And then once you've got your PR technique, less pressure on your back for you to be registered in terms of the identification engineering work towards, you'll know the process quite well. You will know when you feel you've achieved the all 11 outcomes at a broadly defined complexity level, and then you apply for upgrade to technologists. And they will measure the 3 years, or I will just give EXA all their own policies to show them where they are flawed. They can't prejudice you by moving between registration categories. So we'll even go to refill where the president if we have to, although their term all comes to an end in the end of the year. So.
Tom,
okay, thank you.
Tom, I think and Kim, I think the moral of the story is always bank the wins in life. There's so much uncertainty is going on, and with the IDOEW coming up, Bali, I definitely bank the wins. And what it also does, consciously or subconsciously, it also shows that you've had the tenacity to go through the first level of registration. I think there's a subconscious tick that you get that you've gone through that, and now you're upgrading yourself. So I think it's I wouldn't wait. Certainly, I think that is definitely not the right way to go. I know of more than once when the rule was applied like that. Okay, so he'll know one of the mentors is saying that this has been applied before. I think the moral of the story is to everyone here, when Kim was mentoring many candidates at ACOM, it's quite difficult for a mentor or even just a company to take on a professional body as a regulatory body. But I think what is building out of this MASELULEKANE program is because there are many of us, including insiders in EXA, is we are building what is now going to become a working group. We will have much more I want to use the word clout, but we will have much more ability to have a friendly conversation to address these things going forward. So I'm hoping that goes. I don't see any more hands up, and I'm conscious of everyone's time. Does anybody have any other questions that they want to pose into the question? What is really important is especially for the MTM guys, you sort of down to the wire here. For the EWCT, you've still got if you get a challenge now, you've got another 6 months of rolling to where you can tidy up things. But are there any other questions that anybody has? As you know, Justin had a question, which is a really important question and quite late in the day. So we need to. Are there any other things that haven't been resolved? MTM guys, you know that Tom's looking at your stuff and he'll get it back to you as soon as he possibly can. Tom, any thoughts on your side on when the MTM guys should look to push the button, given that there isn't actually the policy updates and amendments at EXA yet? You and Jones have got a strategy, and Fran is fully aware and in the picture. Any thoughts on a date that you would like them to harmonise?
So Mark is still engaging with EXA to get an invoice out of EXA to pay for the 5 that are submitting now. So obviously they can't submit until they have proof of payment for the 5 people, which I hope will happen in the next week or so. And then I still think we must aim at getting their final review done so they can get all their signatures. I've already had one request from a referee perspective from Calvin. I'm assuming there will be others to come from some of the MTM ones. That's for me as a referee because I know them and I know their work. And then I think we must aim at getting it in sooner rather than later. So once I've given sign off, hopefully Duncan will come back to me on grants in the next couple of days or by the end of the weekend. And then Aaron, I'm not sure when. Aaron, have you uploaded something onto CHQ, or are you still touching up your, or has Rob got it? Was Aaron here still?
Tom, I can give you feedback there.
Okay.
I've given my feedback to Aaron, and there's quite a bit of touching up he needs to do. So I'm sure he'll have that sorted out by the end of the week.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so Phil, I think, once I'm happy that it's a good to go, it's to me, they must be submitted once Mike has sorted out the payment side of things. And then
Tom,
we
that
deal
seems to be problematic, because one of the Veronique from Zutari, I think, is struggling to get an invoice out of, and Fran's actually taken that up, and they've just found that the X's finance thing are on a team building. So that's happening in the background. I will update everybody on what's happening with the invoice once we get that resolved as well. And we can obviously update everybody on all the things we're trying to get resolved. Kim's put a fun little thing in the thing there. But Tom, I'm trying to think of a date that we should peg for the MTM guys, specifically with you doing some of the feedback, etc. Should we try and peg a Monday the 5th or something of August?
Yeah, that's a logical date, I think, Phil. 5th of August, or the latest by the end of that week, which is Friday, 2 weeks. I know, 5th of
which is the 9th. But then my only concern is if there's any major thing. Rob just picked up that Aaron's got a little bit of work to do. At this stage, we shouldn't be tidying up writing. We should be really getting down to the wire. So I'm just worried about giving you time and maybe Friedrich
but I'm
getting the circle
to the submission to EXA, not to me. So I'm
saying, are you talking
that
about to EXA?
Yeah. I'm talking about they must submit to EXA. They must aim to submit by Friday the 9th, Monday the 12th at the very latest, and make sure they've set it on auto response, so they get an acknowledgement from the EXA's registration at EXA system. And then that means backwards from there, they can't send it to me for the first time to look at on the morning of the 12th.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is the last dates for submission to Tom, absolute cutoff, is the 5th of August for Tom or Frederick or Kim or Phil or Yanko or whoever. They must aim to be EXA ready for submission with invoice paid by the 9th, Friday the 9th of August.
Correct.
It gives us enough fat to see if they don't get an auto response, or if there is a hiccup, or if there's anything, we've still got some wiggle room in the week of the 12th to the 15th, or 12th to the 16th of August.
And I think the MTM team were in the session where we suggested, certainly for the EWCTA ladies, that what they can do is they can add the maselukane@sasi.org.za or the M4S version as a CC in the email submission, so that we have the final EXA ready version of their submission. Should there be a problem, then like I said earlier, where rather than a company, we can then take on the EXA system. I have quite a good relationship with Tsepang, who's the registration manager, working under Fran. So if necessary, I can massage that part.
You can pave the way.
How I phrase my words now. Maybe misconstrued.
You're being recorded. You're being recorded.
So because from our side, Phil, I think what we're wanting to do is for us, for MASELULEKANE, that is the check that we have taken the candidates to where we want them to go, and then the mock interviews and other things is something secondary to that we can work out. Depending on what answer we get from Michelle.
Yeah, 100%. But I think what we do want to do is we want to have a peg in the road that we're all aiming for. And I think I'd say the same to the EWCTA ladies, all of you with your mentors in here. I think from Johan's point of view, my point of view, Kim's point of view, if you could aim to have stuff that you want to go through the MASELULEKANE team. If you could aim for your absolute final date to be around about the Friday the 2nd of August. It gives us then some time. And I'm talking about, Tom, the EWCTA ladies here.
Yeah.
if the EWC ladies, if you can aim, and EWC mentors, if you can aim anything that you still want to go through the MASELULEKANE team, no later than the Friday, the 2nd of August. It then gives me time to chat to Johan and divvy up whatever the work is, talk to amongst ourselves, etc., and get something back to you so that you've got enough time. I mean, we've got one candidate is asking as if they can they commit to sending us this stuff on the 12th, which means Johan's got to turn it around in a day or two. They've got to fix up whatever they got to fix. It's just unreasonable to expect that. So I think we've got to push. We're so far, we haven't come this far to come this far. We've got to just push through. So EWC and I'll do an updated email to everyone. If you could aim for Friday the 2nd, so that it gives us a week to tidy up, and then we've got that. If there's a crisis and a mentor was not involved in someone, that we can always roll with 1 or 2 individuals, but not if we all aiming to do that sort of last minute Larry kind of submission. And then with the MTM guys, what we're saying is, Tom, what did we say? We said the 9th, have it in by the 9th. Was that correct?
So no, the 9th is when I'm suggesting that will be post my review.
Yes.
So the MTM guys, luckily it's a lot of similar stuff with slightly different focuses in the engineering report. So the critical part for them is to see the progression and to do the EDR B18 EDR forms or C18 EDR in Justin's case, to make sure they've covered that. But luckily Jones has already worked through Grants and Calvin, so hopefully the others have followed the same model. And then it's just to make sure that the experience table and the actual reports don't have overlaps that Johan often picks up. And then I just want to, and in Calvin's I'm reading and just making sure it tells me a story. If it tells me a story and I can see where he's gone from, doing very little or not directly engaged in too much to taking full responsibility for what he's doing, then it's mission accomplished. And then it's just, as I've explained to you offline, I don't want to be recorded, just making sure Jones is in the right place at the right time for what happens on the exercise.
Tom, and just to remind everybody, Johan's, and Friedrich's sage advice over and over from the very beginning is be specific. Talk about your role, what you did, not we and us and all that sort of kind of thing. So, but we kind of rehashing old stuff. Tom, may I suggest then that with EWC and the MTM crowd, is we all aim for Friday the 2nd of August to get stuff in. If it has to come to MASELULEKANE in any way, whether it's the Tom route or the Phil Johan route, it comes in by Friday the 2nd. We do our best to get there. And then it gives us a week for us to sort of sort out, get back feedback, bob and weave, etc. And then people are not under pressure, which means it gives them in the weekend then of the 10th and 11th to sort out any minor tweaks or big tweaks, and then they've got 3 days at their leisure, so that they're not going to get caught by a timeout with a clogged. I mean, it's like with CETA, the Construction Education Training Authority. They do these grant submissions, but if you try to get a grant submission the last 2 or 3 days, you've got no chance because it's just the whole server breaks down. Do you agree with that, Tom? We plug everybody and aim for the 2nd of August.
Yeah, so that's the ready to go, but requires MASELULEKANE
it's ready. The 2nd of August is to come to the MASELULEKANE team.
The candidates, ideally, and we've heard one is already submitted. I hope they copied MASELULEKANE. I haven't gone into that email to check. An EWC candidate. They all should be aiming at trying to submit on the 9th, but by the latest the 12th. Do not leave the submission to the 15th. Because X's system will break when it gets to that. They don't design for adjustments and increased volume. It will reach its capacity, and then you've got to try and do follow-up emails.
Okay, I think we've probably overstayed our welcome. Are there any final questions? Rob Dryden, sorry, we haven't given you much of a chance to talk. Rob, anything from your side?
No, I think we've got our stuff pretty much on track. I'm putting a lot of pressure on the chaps to do their stuff. It's quite a lot of hard work, but it's going to happen.
Good. Well done, Rob. Thank you for all your efforts and certainly picking up all these anomalies and things. Okay, all right. So let's just round up then. Kim, anything for closing comments?
Nope, nothing from my side.
Johan, anything from you?
No, thanks. Nothing from my side.
Think to add there. Friedrich, I'm not sure if we still got Friedrich in the house. Friedrich?
Friedrich's given up because he kept getting kicked out. I think he's.
Oh, okay.
His subscription has expired. Now I'm not sure what the. I'm
hasn't put
going
his
to phone Friedrich after the session just to touch sides with him on what him and I are working on.
Yeah, I think Friedrich didn't put his ticky in. Now that'll show my age. And then Tom, you and I need to touch base because there's a whole lot of stuff going on about the working group and about all sorts of stuff that Fran's just sent me now as well, and also with a WhatsApp. So I'll touch base with you. Okay, I don't have anything else. I hope that has got us to this point where you should now all have enough knowledge, enough information, access to the right people that you've asked the questions. You should be very close to getting it over the line. So may the force be with you, as Obi-Wan Kenobi said to Luke Skywalker. Otherwise, we'll see you when we see you in the next session. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, Louise.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thanks,
Thank you. Bye.